Welcome to Posh Deep Dive, a series that goes beneath the surface of India's prevention of sexual harassment law. In every episode, we explore the real meaning behind the act. Come, let's listen to one story, one deep dive at a time.
Think about that really classic kind of agonizing moment of professional cringe. You know the one?
Well, yeah.
You're at a work social, maybe the big holiday party, or even just a casual charity thing.
Yeah.
And someone decides they really need to embody letting loose.
Mm-hmm.
Our sources kick us off with a pretty familiar, maybe painful visual. David Brent, the manager from The Office.
All right.
Launching into that super intense, really uncomfortable dance routine while everyone else is just, holding their breath.
It's kind of the ultimate example, isn't it? That moment when the line between colleague and, caricature just gets completely obliterated.
Totally.
And hopefully, your team isn't actually starring in a documentary, but the sources do confirm this tension. It's real. Office parties are, fundamentally designed for bonding, right? For improving how people work together, maybe having some genuine fun. That's the idea anyway.
That's the business premise, yeah. But the reality often is you end up with a colleague or sometimes a whole group that just gets, too loud, rambunctious, or downright indecent. That's the quote.
Mm-hmm. And the result?
The intended fun turns into future awkwardness,
Mm-hmm.
or actually, sometimes much worse, real professional strain.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to take a deep dive into the, let's call them essential, non-negotiable rules for actually navigating these social work events. We're looking at how you maintain those professional boundaries, even when the whole environment is kind of pushing you to let your guard down.
Exactly. And the goal here isn't just surviving the evening. It's making sure that how you participate actually strengthens, not damages, your professional standing and your working relationships when you walk back into the office, the next day.
Right. So let's start with that central paradox. The sources call it towing the fine line, because these events, they exist in this weird gray area, don't they?
They really do.
Yeah, they're company sponsored, they involve your professional contacts, but the expectation is everyone acts personally, relaxed. How do we square that? How do you reconcile that professional duty with the relaxed vibe?
That's the core of it. Experts point out there's this essential fine line between the personal and the professional. The whole purpose is to relax, have fun, mingle freely. We want that camaraderie, that team spirit.
Sure.
But here's the critical distinction they make right away. This relaxation. It cannot be an excuse to normalize unacceptable behavior.
Okay, I get the principle, but how do you practically draw that line? When you're in the middle of a loud, relaxed social place where the energy is deliberately sort of low stakes. Being friendly is good, right? For rapport.
Absolutely. Being friendly is encouraged.
So what do the sources say is the ultimate preventative measure?
Well, the core mandate, as they put it, is to deliberately avoid anything that could create discomfort or tension back at work.
Oh.
The experts are basically asking you to future-proof your professional relationships. And that often means being really, really cautious about the information you share or even the subjects you bring up. You've got to maintain that balance. You're a person, yes, but you're still a person with a professional role.
And this naturally brings us to probably the biggest minefield of any social gathering, the alcohol factor.
Mm-hmm. Always.
When people loosen up, judgment often goes right out the window with it. Colleagues get loose-lipped, they lose their filters, and they're just much more likely to overstep personal boundaries, maybe thinking they're just being friendly.
And what's fascinating here is how clearly the sort of modern professional standard has shifted on this. Historically, there was maybe this unspoken idea that behavior at the office party, it had different rules.
Right. What happens at the party stays at the party kind of thing.
Exactly. But the sources are really definitive now. And that's just not the case anymore. Alcohol cannot be a license to behave badly, full stop.
That's a very firm line. But why is that limit so hard now? I mean, beyond the obvious sort of moral or cultural reasons, what's the professional, maybe HR, or even legal rationale for this really uncompromising stance?
Well, if you connect it to the bigger picture, it really boils down to professional liability and, frankly, judgment. Getting intoxicated, that's viewed as a choice you make.
Okay.
The sources emphasize that if you know, for instance, that you tend to get really brash after 2 drinks, their example, then you are obligated to stay aware of your limits. By choosing to drink past that limit, you're actually demonstrating a lack of professional judgment. And that lack of judgment can make the company and you personally liable for whatever happens next.
So the consequences aren't just social awkwardness, they're immediate and professional, which leads us to maybe the most powerful, memorable statement in the material, the one that just completely wipes out those old excuses. The "I was drunk" excuse will not cut it anymore. That feels like a fundamental shift in professional accountability.
It absolutely is. The workplace today judges your behavior based on the outcome, not the inebriated intent behind it.
Right.
And that sets us up perfectly for what might be the biggest aha moment in this whole deep dive.
Right.
That crucial difference between intent and perception.
Okay, so up till now, we mostly talked about self-control, your personal limits, that sort of thing. But now the sources shift the focus entirely. The core insight seems to be that your internal motivation, your intent, it's actually secondary. It matters less than the external impact. Even if your intent may not be wrong, perception is what matters most.
This is exactly where we see the most common relationship damage happen. You might, in your own head, be just being friendly.
Right.
Maybe you compliment a colleague's new outfit totally platonically, or you do what you think is just a playful touch on the shoulder.
Yeah.
But if the other person perceives that compliment, that touch as offensive or inappropriate or a violation of personal boundaries, well, then your friendly intent, it becomes completely irrelevant if things escalate.
That's a tough standard for a lot of people, I think, because we naturally focus on our own motivations, what we meant. Can the sources give us an example? Like, how could an action meant purely for bonding just get catastrophically misinterpreted?
Sure. One scenario they described involved excessive personal questioning. Imagine a manager trying to bond with a junior colleague, right?
Yep.
And they corner them and start asking really intense questions about future career plans, dating life, maybe even their financial situation. The manager thinks they're offering mentorship or, building a deeper friendship.
Right, trying to connect.
But the junior colleague, they perceive it totally differently. It feels like high-pressure harassment or a major invasion of privacy, especially because they can't just easily walk away from their boss.
Wow. Okay.
So intent, mentorship, perception, violation. Big difference.
The outcome is what truly counts then. And the sources really stress that the repercussions for misbehavior or even just perceived misbehavior at these events go way beyond just feeling awkward.
Yeah, we really need to emphasize how serious this is. The sources talk about instances that have led to even more serious repercussions, meaning this goes beyond just an awkward Monday morning chat. Misbehavior can lead to official warnings, disciplinary action, even getting fired. When you blur those lines, you're genuinely risking your professional future. It forces you to ask, doesn't it? Is this one night of sort of uninhibited behavior really worth risking your job and your reputation?
It really demands a level of self-awareness that goes, well, way beyond just counting your drinks. You have to constantly be thinking, how could this action, this joke I'm about to tell, this conversation, how could it potentially be interpreted by someone looking at me through a professional lens?
Exactly.
And that high standard applies everywhere, not just the official company party.
Precisely. The sources are very clear. The standards are universal. It doesn't matter if it's the big, formal, company-sponsored holiday gala or just a spontaneous, informal team meetup for drinks outside the office on a Thursday night.
Oh, that's important.
Your professional identity and the standards of behavior that come with it, they travel with you. The company often remains legally and professionally implicated if harassment or misconduct happens between colleagues, even if it's off-site and after hours.
Okay, that clears up a really common misunderstanding.
Yeah.
That if the company isn't footing the bill, the rules suddenly relax.
Nope, they don't.
But this realization brings us to a potentially huge point of friction. The critical role of the bystander. If I see this universal standard being breached, what's my responsibility? Am I supposed to step in?
This is the sort of team effort aspect of professional decorum. If you witness a colleague crossing the line in how they're interacting with someone else, maybe it's inappropriate comments, maybe aggressive behavior, maybe just violating boundaries, the expectation is clear.
What is it?
You are obligated to speak up and find ways to diffuse the situation.
Wow, okay. That puts a huge professional and social burden on the witness, doesn't it? We're talking about potentially confronting someone, maybe making things really embarrassing, possibly even involving a senior staff member. Do the sources give any guidance on how to do that, how to speak up without just causing a bigger scene?
They absolutely do. And the goal, remember, is diffusion, not accusation. You're not trying to start a fight.
Right.
One of the really practical techniques they emphasize is creating a deliberate distraction or maybe offering a safe exit. So, for example, if you see someone making another person uncomfortable, maybe violating a boundary, you could interrupt the conversation with a totally unrelated question aimed at the person who looks uncomfortable.
Like what?
Like, oh, hey, Sarah, I needed to ask you, did you ever send me that email about the Q4 report? Something totally mundane. It gives the uncomfortable person a social lifeline, an easy excuse to step away without you having to directly call out the other person's behavior in that moment.
That's actually really practical. It shifts the bystander role from this big, scary moral confrontation into more of a strategic, supportive kind of intervention.
Exactly.
But what if the person crossing the line is, like, really senior? Does the bystander's responsibility change if they're way more junior than the offender?
That's a tricky one. The professional responsibility to intervene or report. That doesn't disappear based on the org chart. But the method might need to shift.
Yeah, so.
If confronting the senior person directly feels professionally impossible or even unsafe, then the responsibility shifts. It becomes about reporting the incident discreetly and immediately afterwards, maybe to HR, maybe to another trusted superior. Ignoring it is never the acceptable option because that basically signals that the behavior is okay.
So ultimately, the sources are saying professionalism is kind of a collective responsibility.
Yeah.
Intervention isn't just allowed, it's actually a necessary part of maintaining a healthy workplace culture.
Precisely. And look, the ultimate goal of these social events, building camaraderie, finding shared interests, talking about hobbies, just getting to know colleagues as actual people that's fully endorsed, you should be going to these things.
Right.
But achieving that goal, it has to happen while never losing sight of those professional boundaries and, frankly, just basic human decency. That's the balance everyone needs to strike.
Okay, that provides a really robust framework for navigating these, let's face it, often tense social environments.
Yeah.
Let's quickly recap the three main pillars of office decorum that really emerge from these sources.
Good idea.
First, know your limits with alcohol and stick to them. Seriously, the "I was drunk" excuse, it's gone, it's void. Because choosing to get intoxicated impacts your professional judgment and liability.
Second, prioritize perception over intent, what you meant in the moment. Less important than how your action was actually received by the other person. If it risked a working relationship or violated a boundary, the damage is real no matter how friendly your intentions were.
Right. And third, the necessity of bystander intervention. Professionalism is a team sport. If you see a line being crossed, you actually have a clear, actionable responsibility to speak up, diffuse the situation if you can, or report the violation.
Absolutely. And maybe to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you get ready for your next professional social gathering, we've focused a lot on alcohol and maybe the more obvious kinds of misbehavior. But building on that idea of boundaries and perception, think about subtle behaviors. Things completely unrelated to alcohol. Maybe it's oversharing really sensitive personal details. Or perhaps it's persistent joking criticism of other colleagues that goes just a bit too far. Could someone mistakenly perceive those things as a professional strain or even a breach of trust?
That's the quiet challenge, isn't it? Given the serious potential for repercussions we talked about, how can you act preemptively before you even get there to make sure your professional relationships are actually strengthened, not strained, by any event you attend?
Something to consider next time you step into that social setting.
Definitely something to think about. Thank you for sharing these sources for this really critical deep dive.